like to call this regularly scheduled meeting to order for Monday, November 3rd, 2014. If you'd all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Clerk, retire roll call, please.
Trustee LaRue.
Here.
Trustee Pompo.
Here.
Trustee Durant.
Here.
Trustee Trescott.
Here.
Treasurer Johnson.
Here.
Clerk Retire is here, and Supervisor Limata.
Here.
Staff present is Manager Gerard, Superintendent Kirk Page, Fire Chief Bob Sims. Committee members present are John Marks from ZBA and Dave Wiegand from Roads, Planning, and Recreation.
Thank you. The next item on your agenda is the approval of the consent agenda. As you know, the consent agenda includes those items that typically do not require an immediate board action. This evening's is approval of the prior meeting minutes of October 21st and the special meeting minutes of October 17th. Received committee reports from Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority Board minutes from October 15th, the Water Production Report through September, Presque Isle Power Plant Ash Landfill Deposit Report, the Zoning Board of Appeals draft minutes of October 16th, and the Zoning Board of Appeals adopted bylaws from October 16th, 2014. Also, correspondence not requiring any board action was correspondence from UPCO regarding a notice of hearing, the newsletter from the Peter White Public Library for September, October, and correspondence from UPSET requesting continued support for their activities. Bills payable in the amount of $394,736.12, as well as the financial statements and treasurer's report from September 2014. Are there any board members wishing to remove any items from the consent agenda for further consideration? Lynn?
Do we need to talk about the upset letter, or is that whether we're going to support them or not, or?
It's just part of our regular budget. Randy?
Now, that's what I was going to pass along. We did not put it on as an agenda item because it is in your budget packet with a recommendation for funding.
Okay, so we don't need to address it here. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion we approve.
Support.
Motion and support to approve. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. The next item on your agenda is approval of the remainder of the agenda. Are there any items in this agenda or that need to be changed or anything that needs to be added by any board member? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Agenda is approved. Thank you. This is going to bring us up to public comment. Those members of the public wishing to address the board may do so at this time. Please approach the podium, first and last name and address.
Dave Wiegand, 350 Brookton Road. I just wanted to publicly thank the Royals hockey team for their help today. We put the ice rink boards in place, and it was we got done in large part to their efforts. They brought the better part of their team, their coach and manager, and they were there for the biggest part of the day. So I'd just like to thank them.
Thanks, Dave. Anyone else for public comment? Going once, going twice, gone. We'll close public comment, move to board member comment. Any board members wishing to address the public may do so now. Lynn, start with you.
Yes, sir. I've got a little planning report from last week. As you know, we met Wednesday after our Tuesday board meeting. And the first item was a public hearing for extraction of earth products, which is going to be the Solid Waste Management Authority. And as you may remember from even your MTA teaching, we don't really have any authority to say no where mineral extraction exists. We have to kind of just do it because that's where the minerals are. But we can regulate it a little bit. They had asked for a pretty wide-ranging, including some weekends, to extract their minerals, and we narrowed it down to Monday through Friday. I think it was 9 to 5, and they were okay with that. The second thing is we did a little bit of discussion on the street lighting policy, and I know that's come with the road committee, and it's been talked about and at this level, and whether it was going to go back to planning. But the commission would like to know if we're going to add street lighting to the lighting policy, and how that would work with the ordinance. So I guess going forward, obviously not tonight, but we need to have a little more direction on what should be included. We have a workable document that Planner McCarthy gave us. It's very restrictive. It even says that all the lights should be off in the community at 11 p.m. And we know that that's not going to happen in Marquette Township because of all the businesses. So, like I say, we do have a working document, and maybe you could get that from Planner McCarthy, and we can kind of tweak it as to what we think is necessary. That was the big thing that we want to know how to proceed to go forward. And then we got an update from the Reliance Field and the grant application from North Star Academy. And Planner McCarthy had attended the MTA Planning Conference, and he gave us an update on that. So, other than the ordinance, that's all. That's all I need from you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Diana?
Nothing at this time.
Treasurer Johnson?
Nothing at this time.
Clerk Rattari?
I guess the only comment is I'll inform the residents to check the online packet. The ZBA bylaws are in there under that report, and you can view them there. And it's, like I said, it was a well put together document. And I did notice one error off the check when I was putting it together, but I'll change that. And Election Day tomorrow, although this won't be played until Thursday, so it'll be past Election Day when you view this, but I hope everyone comes out and votes, and we'll move forward.
Thanks, Randy. Dan?
No, nothing this time.
Peter?
I would just like to thank all the residents who came and asked questions about the road millage. I think there were about 18 meetings we had, and it was nice to hear the people talk about the roads, answer their questions. And I'd like to thank Dave Wiggins for setting that up and being here every day. All 18 meetings. And I hope it works out for everyone who has interest in it. And we had people come in, people calls, talked on the street. And I think we answered every question that was put out to them. We weren't out selling it, we just want to explain it. So I just want to thank the people who did it. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. I'll echo Dave Wiegand's comments in regards to the Marquette Royals hockey team. If you get a chance, drive past Lions Field Recreation Area. Take a look at the new ice rink that's shaping up. It was poured a couple weeks ago. The boards went up today. It's turning out to be a world-class outdoor rink. It adds additional value to our community and certainly to our recreational assets in our biggest residential population area. Couldn't have done it without all the hard work of the volunteers who showed up today. So thanks, Pete and Dave. Certainly, we're happy that the company we're working with was so good, but a lot of the labor came from the Marquette Royals hockey players, and we had a group of about 8 this morning, and they changed out, and 6 more came in for the afternoon, and I think we made pretty good use of them. In fact, the manager and coach kept yelling at us for picking up anything. We were just supposed to call 2 guys to pick up everything, so that's good on an old guy's back. So my hat's off, thanks. But take a ride over there and take a look, man. It's cool. It's going to be an awesome rink. We'll close board member comment. Move to the first item. Unfinished business was considered the approval of the construction contracts for previously approved ice rink warming house building. Manager Gerard, you want to provide an update to the board, please?
We did open bids at the end of last week, and we're in the process of discussing with those proposers to clarify what they're actually proposing and what we're looking for. That was unable to be completed for tonight's meeting, so we will be looking to defer this to the meeting on the 18th, or if possible, a special meeting before that.
Questions? Seeing none. Dave, is there anything that you wanted to add on that?
We do have a meeting scheduled tomorrow that should wrap some of this up.
Thank you. Next item on your agenda is agenda item number 9A. Consider the meeting request letter from the City of Marquette. I did intend the letter from Mayor Nemi to go into the packet. It didn't get in there. We'll have Clerk Rattari upload it so that it's in the packet online so the folks at home can look it up if they care to. I apologize for not having it in the packet. But basically, it's an offshoot of our continued discussion about potential bypasses for heavy haul commercial truck traffic in the community and what that will look like. As you're well aware, we have met continuously for the last couple of years and had conversations in this regard. Most recently, we received a letter requesting from the mayor that all the full boards of all the affected communities, including the road commission board members, would all meet together. The township board directed me to reply to the city and the mayor's office, which I did, and let them know that I would be happy to continue to represent the township's interests, that we maintain that we are very transparent and consistent about what we need to move forward, and primarily that's to have a regional traffic study completed so that we can make well-informed decisions about traffic patterns and how we're going to adjust to those for the next 30 to 50 years out. We have one shot at getting it right. Let's take a cautious approach, do the study, and get it right. For background, we did have an agreement a year ago, October, to move forward with Lundin footing the bill. After their negotiations with the city of Marquette tied up their funding, they were not able to continue to agree to fund that $500,000 traffic study. We still, as a board, have maintained consistently that we still believe that the city needs to maintain a north-south route for the truck traffic, as well as we've got to complete this traffic study that's a regional answer to how to move commercial traffic through here. The city, in response, at their last meeting, passed their ordinance, and there is no specific north-south route designated, and that's unfortunate, we feel, as a board. We think that what they've done in order to address concerns of some residents is push the truck traffic out into the busiest corridor in the UP with some 35,000 cars per day out here on US 41. Now those vehicles would be forced, say, from Escanaba. In fact, Commissioner Coyne had stated that if we've got trucks coming from Escanaba and they need to go to Powell Township, we don't want them driving through our city, rumbling through and waking up our residents. They want them driving through the township and rumbling through and waking up our residents. But as their truck ordinance stands now, if you're coming from Escanaba to do business up in Powell Township, you need to take a Michigan left when you hit US 41, travel out through the busiest corridor in the UP to the Walmart Target intersection, turn and head up towards Wright Street and proceed through to Sugarloaf to 550 to get up there and do the same thing coming back. In effect, rather than being able to traverse that 3 or 4 block area that they've blocked out on McClellan Avenue, those trucks instead have to take that Michigan left and go out and then drive all the way back through, adding to congestion in that corridor. If their stated goal was safety, I fail to see how mixing heavy commercial truck traffic into the busiest corridor in the UP adds to the safety of any of our residents, whether they be city or township or neighboring community residents. And this is another request that was the end of their meeting last time, that they request that we once again all get together. And as we had all said we would get together last time, I'm not sure why we went back to square one to start over again, but we'll continue to meet with them at any time on any item of mutual interest. It's unfortunate that we're moving in this direction where they, can't see fit to just have a north-south traffic corridor and work with us. Had we moved forward with what we had agreed on last October, we would only be a couple of months away from completing that traffic study, and we would be prepared to move forward with a bypass, probably in a construction season, maybe as early as 2015 or 16. By delaying it this time, all it's really done is it's going to take probably 18 months to complete that study as a minimum, and we hope that they're willing to work with us and the other municipalities, Negaunee Township, Powell Township, Chocolate Township, and other interested parties like the Road Commission and MDOT to complete that study, and let's do something that's in the best interest of everybody regionally. And I'll open it up for the board if they want to make any more comments. Lynn?
They said repeatedly at that meeting that They don't have a north-south truck route established. They don't have a truck route. I don't know how many of the commissioners said that. And they do. They've got McClellan. They accepted federal funds for that. They established it. It was in the Mining Journal on the front page over and over and over. And I don't know how they can get by with continually saying that and then obstructing anybody that wants to try to conduct business between north and south. I can't fathom that.
Thanks, Lynn. Anyone else? Pete?
I personally thought that was very irresponsible for them to do that at the last meeting before the elections. And so they convert all the problems, their problems with trucking, in which we are a community of trucking. That's how we get our stuff. Are they going to go back and take Wright Street and put it back to 4 lanes now because of the problem there? Because that's where our problem is now. All the people that they're trying to protect on the other side of town, we got it on Wright Street. Sometimes I live 2 houses off of Wright Street, and sometimes I have to sit there just to get out on Wright Street. I can't. Sometimes you have to go the other way. You know, but the road's a lot easier on Wright Street. If you go from Fair Avenue into the city, the road's so bad. If you go down Warner to Miskey, they're not fixing that road either. So now they're going to goof up Wright Street. Now I think we should go back to 4 lanes on Wright Street, because that's going to be our way out of town. South, they got 4 lanes, 5 lanes going out of Marquette. So what are we going to do about that? You know, but I just thought it was kind of irresponsible right before the election, and I think they just jumped the gun just to get rid of it.
Thanks, Pete. So again, we'll continue to wait to see when they want to hold the meeting, and we'll certainly have representation there as we move forward. I think that it's unfortunate that they move forward with their ordinance, and I think it'll be confusing for truckers moving in. I think it probably opens them up for some legal challenges on McClellan if a trucking company wants to challenge it when you took federal funds on both ends of it. I think that if someone's in the mood for challenging it, there certainly is a challenge, and there's certainly some legal precedent, which I did provide to everybody last October in respect to that. The other thing is that we need to take a look at our own ordinances, and I have instructed Manager Gerard to begin to work on taking a look at ordinances that we can bring before the board. We have exact same ability to pass those ordinances if we so desire, since they've made it clear that only trucks that are starting or ending within the city limits are allowed to traverse the city limits. We can certainly make sure that those vehicles don't cut through Marquette Township other than US 41 as well. I would hope that we wouldn't have to come to that, but we'll be responsive to our residents just as equally as the city of Marquette is. I hope that we can continue to find common ground and work towards a common sense solution that it benefits everybody. So I look forward to where this goes from here. If there's no other comments, we'll move to the next item, which is 9B, consider the municipal council rate increase. You have a transmittal in your packet from me and also a copy of a letter from Municipal Council Roger Zappa of Benzinger, Cotant, and Manx. Roger has been representing us for a number of years now. The last time he asked for an increase to their hourly rate, I believe was 3 years ago, and he had stated that he would hold it for 3 years. It's that 3 years is up, and as we move towards January 1st of 2015, they are requesting a rate increase to $114 per hour. We typically use Roger for most things local, especially whether they're labor-related, contract disputes, FOIA, or the Open Meetings Act, training and compliance, and certainly with the recent Michigan Tax Tribunal cases. My recommendation is that we do approve this rate increase. I think that $114 per hour for the breadth of knowledge and expertise that the firm and certainly Council Roger Zappa brings to this township is invaluable.
Also, we'll make the motion to
I
increase
support.
it to 114.
Thank you. Board member comment? Seeing none. All those in favor of the motion to increase the hourly rate for Benzinger, Cotant, and Manx representation to $114 per hour signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Those against? Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on your agenda is item number 9C, consider the fire department staffing request. Manager Gerard.
Before you tonight is an item that we've talked about several times in prior meetings, just superficially. Chief Sims and I are bringing to you a request that the staffing complement of the fire department be increased to up to 35 members, not necessarily that it would become 35, but that you would approve the expansion of the membership to that amount to allow for some succession planning and to potentially bring some new individuals onto the department to have them prepared, trained, prepared, oriented to the department to have them be ready to step in as we have some turnover. As I mentioned in the transmittal memo, we have some long-serving individuals that there is potential for some turnover with those individuals. Not that any of them have indicated that they are planning to leave, but from a succession planning standpoint, we'd like to be prepared for that. Chief Sims is here in case he wants to add anything to what I've said, but our issue is, as you all know, since the fire department was established, it's been at 30, and it's been static. Many things have happened here in the township, expansion of businesses, expansion of the SEV, expansion of demand, increase in run status, a variety of things have occurred, and and in my view, and I believe in the chief's view as well, it's prudent for us to look forward to what we might encounter in the next 5 years and be prepared for it.
Thanks. Anything that you wanted to add, Chief Sims?
No, Randy pretty much covered it.
Okay.
Unless you have any questions.
Thanks.
The biggest thing is, we're not gonna go up to 35, but we'd like to have the opportunity.
Should you need to. Okay.
Excuse me.
Any questions for Chief Sims or Randy? Lynn?
Well, just to clarify, I guess, so the public knows that you're not bringing 35 people out to every fire or every accident or every incident. Some of them are on shift work too, just like anybody else.
Well, it's even a little more than that as the chief is heading towards the podium, is that we have basically what's called a paid on-call force, and they're not regularly scheduled. They respond when the siren goes off, and depending upon when that is, what their availability may or may not be. You're right, some are, at least one is active military in the National Guard. Others have shift work, have rotating shifts, they have family obligations, a variety of things. So it's you can't really plan necessarily for how many are going to be responding unless it's on the day shift, and we know we've got a few people on the day shift that will respond and can respond almost immediately. The average is about 3 minutes to get out the door when the siren goes off. But in the evenings and the nights, it's a little more difficult, and even daytime sometimes it's difficult. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking at, and I think the public needs to recognize that it's, we're not a staffed force per se, although our response rate is comparable to anybody's in the region. Chief?
I think the accident out in front of our building was, I think we clocked like 2 minutes and 20 seconds or something from the siren. It was amazing. We couldn't believe it.
Well, and I just have back to 1984. Our runs in 1984 was 33. Last year we had 256. And when we first started, a lot of the department was shift work. They worked in the mines or the railroad. And now we have probably 4 people who are shift work. So it's, and Pete asked the question, who responds and when? It's hard to say during the day, if it's the EMS call, and we know that Ron and Rob's at the station. All the officers have radios so they can listen and see, make sure they're going. And so they don't respond. Some are from downtown or, from work or whatever, so they don't respond. If it's an accident or a fire, you're gonna get more people there. So it's hard to determine how many people are gonna respond at any given time, given, sometimes you might have 5 people there during the day, and next time you have 22. It all depends who's working, who's around.
But hence the need to have the increase, because you've got to have the available bodies to respond, and you're right, if you've gone from 33 runs to 200 and, whatever, it's important that we have the available staff to respond when the time comes.
And in the House, right now, there's a bill in the House saying that full-time departments, Personnel can join volunteers. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I talked to one of the chiefs in town here, and it's not up to him, it'd be up to their union, but they have done it out east quite a bit, so.
That's interesting. So they have the ability to join a paid-on-call department like ours because if they lived in the township and wanted to respond.
Yes,
Interesting.
so, you know, that's why to go up to 35. Not saying we're gonna do it, but if the opportunity arises, and so.
Thanks, Bob. Any other questions?
I asked earlier about how many respond, and the answer is anywhere from 8 to 11 for fire, stuff like that. So I just looking for that number, how many show up because of switching shifts and stuff like that.
Right.
And the answer was if you average it out, it's anywhere from 8 to 11 people.
Thanks, Pete.
So,
There's no other questions. Entertain a motion to approve the request from Manager Gerard and Chief Sims to increase the maximum number of firefighters for our department from the 30 to 35.
So moved.
Support.
Any other board member comment? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on your agenda is 9D. Consider correspondence from the Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority regarding tipping fees and the memo from Superintendent of Public Works regarding the landfill tipping fees. There is a memo trying to justify the request to increase that. And Superintendent Page, if you would approach the podium to see if there's any questions from the board to answer, I would appreciate it. You do have a transmittal from Superintendent Page dated October 30th. Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority has expressed an urgent need to increase the landfill tipping fee by $4.73 per ton. If this occurs, and it should if it's needed, I will be adjusting my recommended 2015 solid waste budget to reflect the increase. I'll also recommend an increase of 35 cents per month user charge. Superintendent Page.
Well, this is, just information that was actually supposed to be on the correspondence part of the agenda. It's, we got this notice. There will be a meeting November 12th with the Marquette Solid Waste Management Authority. And if they should pass it, I'm telling you what our adjustment would be. It's just like I mentioned a number of times during the budget work sessions. They've had problems for several years in terms of presenting accurate information. So now they're, suddenly discovering some accurate information that's going to impact their operations. So I don't know all the details, other than I know there is a lot of discussion going on at the county level as concerns the landfill. But it does appear, certainly, they haven't raised tipping fees for many years. It's hard to believe that, they've not been able to, they haven't needed to raise tipping fees. And it turns out looks like there are some reasons that, they should have been raised.
It appears that
And
they
they
had
need to be
been
raised.
subsidizing it from the contaminated soil account, and they've depleted that
Right.
account, so
Yeah.
hence the request for the increase.
Right. It won't be a major impact on us, but, there will be an impact.
Okay.
And that's why, over the years, we have obviously, we're required by our agreement to transport our household hazardous, or not hazardous, but garbage, basically, to the landfill, which we do. And we have participated in the recycling, not the recycling, but the composting program. I think we were the first people to actually contribute, or actually we paid them to accept our leaves and brush for several years, and that didn't really work out. The whole intent there was to, it was to be composted, and then if we needed it, we would pay our contracted hauler to haul it back to the township. So, you know, the first time we needed it, lo and behold, we couldn't get our own compost back. That at that point, we'd paid like $45,000 to have it composted. And now they've been promoting, you know, a recycling facility. There's a lot of controversy over that. You know, it's supposed to have opened in September. It's going to be a joint effort between the city and the county. The costs were totally unknown. Now they're starting to discover that, you know, the costs are much greater than what they anticipated. And as I mentioned in the solid waste budget work session, you know, our own contracted hauler, which we just renewed our contract with for 5 years, is building his own transfer station. So we'll be able to increase the services to our residents and still comply with, you know, the county mandates to haul our garbage there. So, plus I heard through the grapevine that I know I read in the paper that the city's actually being sued for violation of zoning, I believe it is. And I understand there's actually a stop work order on that facility, so.
It's up in the air. We're
A
not
lot of issues there. My point is, they're saying that they're finally going to try to get it together, which they obviously should do. I mean, it's a business. They should do what they're saying, you know, they're.
Do you need board action at this time then, Kirk, based upon?
No, like I said, this was not intended to be actually a discussion item, but it's fine to discuss it. I mean, if you got questions, I really can't answer questions about the landfill. So,
And until after that meeting, you won't know that
Right,
the increase.
yeah.
It looks like it probably will be needed.
yeah,
And, it probably
and they've
will.
actually been saying this for several months now, if you've noticed their meeting minutes. So it just finally just coming to a head, so that apparently it's reached a critical phase where they have to take action.
Okay. Randy?
Oh, I was just wondering if that's something we should go to as a board, or send a rep?
Probably.
or-
I mean, certainly it'd be worthwhile to hear what's really happening there.
And are they I suppose you don't know, but I'm wondering if the increase is supposed to go to pay off this loan that they have to do for 5 years. I
Well,
suppose
obviously,
that'll
they got to
come
pay
out.
it back, you know, and that's part of it, so.
Okay.
And
Right.
certainly the city's been asking a lot of these same questions. I mean, the board's been asking questions, the city of Marquette's been asking questions. And like I said, everything's just kind of come to a head now, so hopefully some answers will be forthcoming.
A couple things, and building this transfer station, whatever you want to call it, and they're taking the hazardous waste funds, which is, from reading their minutes, have been depleted practically. So who's going to pay for the additional dollars coming out, and where that money is going to come from? And that's going to have to come from all the municipalities and that, so. And yet, we don't have any input on anything at all, so which is a big concern myself. The other side, when you read their minutes and that, and the loan they have, what gets me is, where were the auditors at this point in time on some of this? Why didn't they call attention to it when they're down $1.5 million on the loan? They're supposed to have, it's over $6 million, got less than $5 million in that, so I have some concerns with the auditing of that function too, so, that's it.
Looks like it's a little bit of a time of turmoil at the Marquette County Solid Waste Authority.
Yeah, apparently this issue with the letter of credit is pretty recent. Because I know the auditors have been doing their normal annual auditing, and landfill authority members have been requesting additional input from auditors, which they've been providing. And like I said, so far, you know, everything was just kind of in compliance with most requirements, although I can't even speak to that for sure, because, you know, their meetings, they have a lot of closed sessions, and the closed sessions seem to be related to employee issues, you know, labor laws, and also a lot of DEQ closed sessions. So in the closed session, so I don't know exactly what the nature of everything is. It doesn't look like it's a very positive situation.
Manager Gerard?
If you'll recall, the solid waste is an authority that municipalities are all participants in, and there's basically an appointed body that's appointed through the county board that we have input to, and that is our representative body. The issue that's occurring here would not have been something that an audit would have discovered. Auditors don't go into the kind of evaluation. Basically what they do is look at your cash flow and determine whether it's compliant with the laws and things such as that. So the issue is twofold. One is an operations issue and the other is a closure issue, and they are separate. Basically, each of the members of the authority are responsible for their share of the future closing costs, and we've been funding that, and we have about $337,000 set aside for those future costs, which could be significant, particularly if you have a failed membrane or something like that needs to be cleaned up. So, and we're still, every year we're contributing more into that balance in our solid waste fund. So if residents look at that, there's a reason for that. We're preparing for future closure. Now that keeps getting pushed off as technology increases. Right now it's about 50 years out is the current estimate, but that could be foreshadowed by some catastrophic event that would breach the liner or something like that. What Kirk was referencing to basically is there has been a history with the authority, and it's not been real public, but there has been a history of challenges and settlements basically that could have an impact on this. And what as your representative and as a member of the authority, what I've recommended to the chair, I believe he's the chair, but at any event, one of the members of the governing body, is that they engage a forensic audit, which would track all of the expenditures and all of the events that have occurred financially differently than a regular audit to determine where and how they might have gotten off track. But eventually, we're all going to be responsible for it, one way or another, either through tipping fees or through outright cash infusion.
Thanks, Randy. So you think this may be an item that would come back before us, but only, within the budgetary constraints of having an increase?
Well, right. And I gather they're actually looking for input. That's, like I said, they've been discussing it between themselves for a long time. And now they're saying they need to do it, but they want, the involvement of the other communities.
Okay. Thanks, Kirk.
Supervisor, if I may, just one more comment is definitely we should be attending that meeting on the 12th, and probably the treasurer or the supervisor, along with myself and Kirk, should probably be there to watch out for our own interests.
Where is this, where will it be?
I believe it's going to be at the courthouse.
Sands Township Hall.
Yeah, at Sands Township Hall, which is, Sands basically is hosting it, so.
Yep.
Kirk, what's the life of the landfill now? I know they changed it several
It's
times.
50 years. It's been 50 years for,
Yeah,
At
50,
least
50,
50 years.
50.
it's still 50 years.
Okay.
Lynn?
So your part in this then, are you going to go ahead and make the adjustments to the budget now?
No.
Or wait till after the meeting, sometime before the end of the year, probably?
Right. I would just make
Determine-
a minor adjustment, and it's only going to be like, I forget the exact number, 5,000 and some dollars.
Okay.
So I would just, an extra expense offset by revenues,
Okay.
which amount to 35 cents a month per customer.
Thanks, Kirk. If there's nothing else, we'll move on. Next item on your agenda is 9E, consider a budget amendment number 2014-10. Clerk Rattari.
Present to the board the budget amendment 2014-10, and I make a motion to approve that, and it'll be in the minutes as always, as referenced. And the highlights of that are, is authorization is requested to reclassify expenditures in the general fund capital to accommodate the work done at Lions Field and include changes to the ice rink upgrade plans and warming building. And the narrow track implement in the original budget will not be purchased in 2014. Also requested is an increase in the solid waste fund revenue and expenditures by $17,000. Commercial landfill usage costs have been 33% over the original budget, and residential have been averaging 14% over. Thus, the sanitary landfill department will increase by $14,000 and $7,000 respectively. Concurrently, the revenue associated with the commercial usage will increase by 17,000, which is the 14,000 usage and 3,000 surcharge fees, and the offset of the 4,000 will come from contingency.
Is there a second?
Second.
So a motion is second. Board member comment or questions? Seeing none. Clerk Rattari?
It's just a mouthful, but it's in accounting terms. If you look in the minutes, you'll see where the actual dollar amounts are getting changed. So
Roll call?
Clerk Rattari is yes. Trustee LaRue?
Yes.
Trustee Pompo?
Yes.
Trustee Truscott?
Yes.
Trustee Durant?
Yes.
Treasurer Johnson?
Yes.
Supervisor Limita?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on your agenda is 9F. Consider the 2014 winter freeze update. You do have a transmittal in your packet dated October 30th, 2014 from Superintendent of Public Works Kirk Page. Kirk does have in there that October 14th, 2014, I submitted a Section 19 application for disaster assistance to the Michigan State Police Emergency Management Division. This was that Section 19 funding that we were talking about versus the community development block grants that we had discussed at the previous meeting. It was received, reviewed, and tentatively approved the same day. The total direct expenses claimed were $113,529. The amount tentatively approved was maximum allowable $100,000. The majority of our expenses occurred on Fair Avenue and were related to small diameter pressure sanitary sewer mains and services, freezing and breaking. $56,922 of our expenses were for Oberstar to excavate, repair mains and services, and restore the right-of-way. In addition, one service was replaced and insulated, and a second service was insulated. Now that we know our emergency expenses will be reimbursed, I am proposing to move to the next phase of this project to ensure we do not incur catastrophic expenses in the future. The next phase is a replacement of approximately 300 feet of main and 110 feet of lateral. I'm proposing directional drilling of HDPE pipe at a depth of 8 feet. These are the same specifications we are using in our current Trowbridge Park low-pressure forced main project. Attached is a proposal from Oberstar to perform the required work for $46,500. It was developed using the same unit pricing as the current Trowbridge Park sewer project. The cost is approximately $10,000 less than open cutting and insulating. I recommend acceptance of the Oberstar proposal for an estimated $46,500. Furthermore, in order to achieve efficiently and timely completion of this project, I recommend this project be added to the current Trowbridge Park Phase 2 low-pressure force main project, which is substantially complete. Anything that you needed to add, Superintendent Page?
The only thing I would add would be, I've basically been waiting to find out the final resolution to our reimbursement for our expenses last winter until I made this move. I didn't want to go ahead and incur additional expenses until I knew for sure that we'd be getting our other expenses reimbursed. So, but it is late in the season, so that's why it's kind of a last-minute deal here. But I have, reviewed this, and this is, in my opinion, a prudent thing to do, because our likelihood of this happening are exactly the same this winter as it was last winter, 50-50, So we know where the problems are now. We know how to correct it. And actually, as a result of the Fair Avenue problem last winter, that's why we changed our construction technique for the current project. And since it's the same contractor, we're doing exactly the same type of work. We can utilize the same permits, the same, actually, form. It'll come out of the same fund. This is replacement. The new stuff is improvements, so.
And I'm correct in looking at that proposal that this is something that they would begin work on immediately with
They
the
have
ideal
to.
completion.
Right.
Okay.
Because there will
Ernie?
be a small amount of paving, because we'll have to, since we're putting in a new main replacement that's connected, the old one's connected to a manhole, I'll need a new connection to the manhole. And even though it's just outside the paved area, it's going to require some pavement, and the asphalt plants are closing soon.
Friday? Thanks, Jim. Ernie?
Couple questions. Reading through your memo here on the amount of tentatively approved, do you have this in writing, and how is that for sure? I want to be concerned with that too. For the $100,000, did you get that in writing so we can move forward on it?
No, it wasn't in writing. There was actually a meeting here with the person in Lansing that's actually responsible for reviewing and approving. So she actually reviewed, in fact, it was right here in the Township Hall, all the applications. I was number 2. There was actually, when I got to work, it was first come, first served. There was actually somebody already here ahead of me. So anyway, I was number 2, and it was way different than all the other grant proposals. Everything is online these days, and everything comes with instructions, but it's extremely complicated and difficult to interpret. And this was like a face-to-face, and she actually pointed out 3 corrections to make for my proposal. And so I made them on the spot, initialed them, and she said, "You're good to go." So,
So you feel that that's sufficient to move forward with it?
yeah, I don't know. This is directly from, I don't know what to say. It's like,
I'm always concerned with the
FEMA
government
was
if they don't have
a
something in
little
writing.
FEMA was a little different. That was like federal money.
Yeah.
And the difficulty there was the region didn't, even though everybody submitted everything that they could possibly think of, it still didn't equal or their minimum threshold to even qualify. So that's why that was
That was the only
disapproved.
concern is if.
And this is state money. They know they've got the money. They know who's applying. So if you fill out the forms correctly, you get the money.
And they indicated on the form that we would be receiving the 100,000.
Yes.
Okay. The other question I have is, where's the actual location that you'll be working on for this?
Well, Fair Avenue, basically the same area we were at last winter, although it's more the west end of that first block. It's actually 2 blocks there, but Woodridge Avenue and east 300 feet.
Back in my area again.
Yep, not quite. Your line was already replaced, and yours was the only one actually replaced and insulated. So that was my original. I mean, that's basically what you do, is insulate. Because the problem is they were just too shallow. But this is actually better than insulated. It's less disruption to the surface, so it's just more cost effective. It's a stronger, more flexible pipe. It's more difficult to break.
Other questions? Lynn?
I want to participate in this because I want to do the traffic control for $900 a day. Do you have any idea what that involves? That's a huge amount of money for 5 days' work. $4,500 for traffic control.
Yeah. Yeah, it's flag people, it's equipment, the signage. What it costs.
Seems
I mean,
like a
certainly
lot
you
of
could
money.
apply for the job.
I'd love to. 5 days.
I mean,
yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
get that amount of money, but,
Probably not.
you get part of it.
That's
I think they
just-
pay pretty well, though.
Seems pretty excessive.
Pretty
I
sure it's a
think.
union job. Yeah.
Okay.
Do people at minimum, insurance premiums, equipment,
Hard hat, orange vest.
insurance, benefits?
Jeez.
If there's no other questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the request from Superintendent Page in the
So
amount of
moved.
$46,500.
Second.
Motion and a second. If there's no other comment, all those in favor?
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed? That motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I would just request that at the next meeting, if Kurt can give us an update or someone gives us up to where we're at on it.
Next item on your agenda is 9G. Consider Overstar pay request number 3 for Trowbridge Park Phase 2 low-pressure force main project. You do have a transmittal in your packet dated October 30th, 2014 from Superintendent Page. Attached is pay request number 2 in the amount of $111,982.20 submitted by Overstar Inc. for the Trowbridge Park Low Pressure Force Main Project Phase 2. It has been reviewed and recommended for payment by North Country Engineering. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request payment to Overstar in the amount of $111,982.20. What's the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion, we approve.
Support.
Motion and support to approve the
For 111,000.
pay request number 3,
Correct.
$111,982.20. Board member comment or questions?
Is this the complete?
No.
Not 100%, but it is substantial.
Any other questions? Seeing none, we have a motion and support to approve the payment as requested. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The next item on your agenda is consider the final billing number 20 for the Public Works Building, number 9. You do have a transmittal from Cornerstone Development dated October 30th for the final billing number 20, the Public Works Building number 9, from Jim Clark, who is at the podium now and wants to really answer your questions. Work on the new Public Works Building is complete, and Town Hall Contracting is addressing some minor items under warranty. The new lockers were installed, the old ones removed, and will be utilized at Lions Field. This is the final billing, which includes the following: retention, DDR number 3 lockers, and final administration fees. In accordance with Section 12.1 progress payment attached, you find billings for each facility. The total amount due for payment number 20 is for the Public Works Building in the amount of $75,723.
Correct.
And then you're looking at your packets, you're seeing $80,978.51.
Just a quick explanation. After this was submitted, our office did a quick reconciliation between the 3 parties involved. That would be the township, Cornerstone Development, and Hall Contracting. And we had determined in a previous billing that one item had already been billed and paid, so we were reducing that amount on this final bill of $5,285 and some cents. So that's why that's reduced from what you have in your packet.
So all that happened was the last payment that we had approved prior to this did include that 5% retainage, $5,278.28. This final payment is adjusting that by taking that back out, so that our total payment moving forward is $75,700.23.
Correct. So all we're looking to is a final on that. Now, I do have Bromley here. This is the final billing. This is an opportunity for you maybe to walk through the building at your whenever you have a time. Maybe schedule that with Kirk's staff. It's a wonderful facility. It's light years of what you were working with before. It's centralized your operations. I think you're going to see some scales of efficiency with your staff as well. So everything's in one central location, so it's scattered in different warehouses and garages in different areas of the township. But I'd like Bromley a few minutes to speak and maybe make himself available for any questions you have related to details on the facility. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we just, as stated, there were, the lockers that we swapped out, they went on back order, it took about 9 weeks. We did complete those. As I said, the other lockers we took out and are available for use at the Lions Field. Also, there was a number of small items that were overlooked in the design stage that we looked at and addressed. But we'd like to set up a walkthrough with you guys to go take a look at the facility. I know a number of you have been through at different times, and the last walkthrough that we scheduled was kind of last minute, kind of obviously inconvenient for some of you because not a whole lot participated, but we'd definitely like to set something up there.
I was in there today, Bromley. I did see the lockers. They look great, and the guys were really happy with the way they look. Now, could you address the board, because we did hear some concerns about the actual floor in the garage and having to grind that floor, and there were some challenges. And is all that taken care of now?
Yeah, what it was, you know, we had it set to do a 400 grit polish on that floor to kind of restore the thing. There was a number of lines painted on it. There was some existing concrete stain. And what had happened was when they came in and they did their carbide grinding initially, which is enough normally to take the surface off. The second edition that was done, I believe, in the 90s, Chief? 91. There was a stain on there that really penetrated much deeper into the concrete than we had anticipated. And Randy and I and Kirk and Jim met up there, and we had to go after it again a little bit more aggressively. But that has all been completed. And then also to kind of go along with that, the existing trench drains in the original fire station, when Integrated did the design, there were a number of areas that were that were cracked along the trench drains and whatnot. And when we replaced it, they had called out a certain lineal footage in a certain area. And the more we looked at it, there was some areas that needed attention, and we cut and ground those out and then repoured them. We went back through. There was a number of small divots in the floor. Went and patched all those up. Any of the existing cracks, we did an epoxy filler. So just addressed a number of small items on it.
Some of the service workers expressed some concern with the tile floors inside the building, inside the office areas, and with staining. I think it must be very porous tile or something that maybe stains easily. And what if you could comment on that as well?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things we looked at. What we did find, there was a couple of areas where they have an expansion joint, which they basically we get a certain amount of run. I think it's 30 or 40 feet. They don't want to go any further without what they call a soft joint. And what they use is a sanded caulking, which makes it pliable, flexible. There was a couple of areas there that we found that surely, I think what happened is when they cleaned it up, they didn't get it cleaned up enough, and it's got some sort of substance on it that kind of has been attracting the dirt a little bit more. But I think the consensus between all of us on the rest of the tile is a porcelain tile. And when we met up there, I think a lot of what it is with the vehicles coming into the garage, there's a lot of sand and a lot of dirt that's just continually getting tracked in there. We even took and actually just took some paper towel with just standard water without even any detergent and scrubbed it, and it does come off. We looked at possibly doing an additional sealer to the tile, but the more that we talked about it, we had talked about possibly doing a couple of test areas. We looked into some additional costs to that, and it just didn't seem to make sense to go through and do the whole thing. We consulted with McCabe's on it, and they actually didn't even perform the job. They've just had some issues, and they use the same tile on this project as well as the fire hall, and it is the same actual tile. There's no difference in it. I think it's just a function of how the building is used. And the one thing that we did on that project as opposed to this one was we went with an epoxy grout. Typically, where you have the issues in a tile floor is in the grout, where the grout really stains. So we took that one step above to try to eliminate those issues. And obviously, we're not having any problems with the grout there, but it seemed to be the tiles are just real dirty. So we looked at a couple of avenues as far as means to clean it, and Kirk's gonna kind of look down those roads and see what we can do.
Mechanical type
system, a floor machine that can handle that, because the amount of traffic and the type of dirt they're bringing in from the staff is 10 times greater than how many city fire hall. And a lot of times what they're tracking in is something that will have oil leaks or materials on it, so. It'll clean out, it just, we need something that can handle cleaning those heavier or soils that are being tracked in.
Okay.
Yeah, there was, when I looked at it the first time, we had done the final cleaning on it, and Kirk had asked, when we were going to clean it again. But what we had done is we had done the final cleaning before the asphalt was installed, so there was a lot of dirt coming in. We had SCI come back in, clean it, turned out pretty good. Then when I went back, just a couple of weeks later, it looked terrible. And that's where we first thought, well, maybe there is a concern with the tile, but it seems to be now the consensus is just with all the vehicles coming in and out, there's a lot of sand, a lot of dirt being tracked in and out of that building. And I'm not so sure that any sealer really is gonna do anything anymore, because I think it's just gonna get ground in. I think it's just a matter of cleaning it.
Okay.
It is manufactured with a seal.
Yeah, and they don't, Daltile, which is the manufacturer, which is one of the larger manufacturers in the country, they don't require an extra sealer. And as I say, it's the same tile that we've got in both the other facilities. It's just a matter of how it's being used, I believe. So.
Okay. Other questions? Lynn?
I haven't had the pleasure of being over there yet, but you can't just do college cleaners and have them bring some carpet rugs in and take them out every other week and clean them?
Well, I think, it's only going to get worse as the winter goes on, with all the vehicle traffic in there, and as much as they sand the roads and everything. I mean, it'd be a constant battle, and I think what we kind of looked at was a couple of different type of scrubber machines that, and I believe we talked with Randy about it, that the building grounds crew could easily use where it could be cleaned more often. And you wouldn't have the cost of bringing a third party in to clean it. So nothing definite at this point. I mean, we're still investigating all the options. Not to say that, maybe we find out that isn't the best route, and maybe we do a sample of the sealer and see how it turns out. But we just didn't want to go ahead and do the sealer on the whole thing and then be disappointed with the results on it. So just kind of looking at a couple of options anyway.
Other questions? Seeing none, entertain a motion to approve the final payment in the amount of $75,700.23.
So moved.
Or
There's no other comment or questions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Bromley. The next item on your agenda is 9I. Consider the manager's proposed 2015 goals and objectives. As a portion of that, you were each handed an update on the 2014 goals and objectives from Manager Gerard, an update through today. I did ask him to provide this as we begin to talk about what we're going to do in 2015, so that we can at least see where he was at with his 2014 goals. Are some of those going to need to continue? Were we in the right track? Are we heading in another direction with him? Manager Gerard, I'm going to turn it over to you.
The board, excuse me, the board had asked for some proposed objectives for 2015, which I did supply. I mean, just basically to begin discussion as we did last year in terms of establishing what they will be for 2015. Now, certainly some of the 2014 objectives are outside of our control. We're still waiting for the Supreme Court to determine whether or not they're going to take our big box case. We are negotiating, Superintendent Page and I, along with Roger Zappa, with the parties that now hold the responsibility for Mason's Bluff about moving forward. We're right now waiting for them to get back with us with dates that they can meet with their attorney. So some of those things will certainly be likely carrying over into early 2015, but we are moving on those continuously and currently. I know the entity that's holding the financial responsibility is anxious to get Mason's Bluff moving, but even if they were to agree today, by the time we got through all the permits and everything to get that back online, it's probably going to be the first part of 2015. It's been sitting dormant now for, what, 3 years, Kirk? Around 3 years. So those kind of things that are outside our span of control, we're trying to push those along as quickly as we can, but they are going to probably continue into 2015. We'll continue to work on those.
I do have a question for you on your 2014 goals and objectives. What was about the complete the conversion of the former Fire Rescue Hall to Public Works Center, which we're doing the final payment here. The transition of the services meeting that projected occupancy, it took a little longer, but we were all aware of that. And one of the things that we were concerned with was that purchase agreement moving forward and on the old facility. And I see you did update it in green that you intend to sign, which would be tomorrow for the revised purchase agreement. If you want to comment on to the board on that.
Yes, at the last board meeting, I advised that Roger had revised the purchase agreement to take into consideration the circuit court issues that are pending with that issue, and those resulted in two issues coming back from their attorney, which we have responded to. They basically wanted to ensure that there was no history of underground storage tanks on the property, on either of the properties, which there isn't. There's no history of that on our properties. They wanted that built into the agreement, that certification, as well as an estimate of what the taxes would be were it on the tax roll with a private owner, and those have been supplied to the attorney. As far as I know, they've been accepted. We do have an appointment tomorrow around noontime, noon to 1 o'clock, for the purchaser to be in to sign that agreement.
And on that agreement, I don't know how much you want to comment on it, but basically this agreement is on a price that had been agreed to prior, but it hasn't been before the board yet. But basically this agreement is just commenting that they intend to finalize this sale before what date?
December of this year, December 31st.
Thank you. The other question I would have for you then in regards to personnel and concerns with personnel about making sure that we had maintained all of our performance appraisals done. And I just want to know if you are up to date on performance appraisals for all staff.
Yes, we are completing the ones that are due now, and we have, I think, 2 that come up between now and the end of the year as well.
Board member questions on 2014 and where he's at? Questions or comments? Bernie?
On the sale of the building,
Mm-hmm.
you're saying it's going to be completed by December 31st?
That is the objective, yes. That's our objective, to have it completed by December 31st.
Dancing around this for over a year now.
Well, that was the board's decision to me was to have it be completed by December 31st. That's why we built it into the agreement. If there's some flexibility, I need to know that before tomorrow.
It seems like every time we have come up with, they have to go to court again with their attorney or something.
Well, that's true. There has been involvement with the circuit court that all the hearings are completed now, and it's resting with the judge for final determination. And we're anticipating that will be done before December 31st. Usually this time of the year, they try to clear their dockets before we get into the holiday season.
I agree that we talked about December but I was hoping that we could get it done earlier than that, because, as I said last time, it is costing us some money. Now, the utilities in the old building, not much, but we are paying interest on dollars that we could apply this dollar amount we get from them to our loan, which will decrease that. So it is costing us dollars with them. With the problems that they've had, it's come back to haunt us because it's costing us dollars in interest in that, so.
Well, it will over the long haul, yes.
That's my concern in that. I think we bent over backwards for them, and I don't know how much they've pushed it to that, or they've just kind of moved along at their own rate.
Well, actually, you have to remember that we had an agreement with these individuals back in 2008 that the township backed out of, and we have gone back to them, and they are still interested in acquiring the property. So it's not all it's not all one-sided.
Other questions? Okay, so we're looking at the updates of 2015. You do have in your packet Manager Gerard's recommendations for his 2015 goals. Normally I ask everybody to just kind of forward them in, and we have a copy of everybody's. I know some people included them in their performance appraisals that we completed in September for Manager Gerard. You're looking at the 5, and we usually say 3 to 5. Manager Gerard has chosen to oversee completion of studies for departmental cost allocation, or the cost of service study that we had talked about. Facilitate negotiation toward completion of Mason's Bluff. Coordinate administration of board-approved local road rehab plan, pending voter approval. Complete the labor market review and compensation survey pursuant to the township classification and compensation as required. And pursue establishment of Marquette Township as a training site for Michigan Firefighters Training Council programming. And those are the 5 that he believes fit our vision of where we want to be, and we'll open it up for board member comment on those 5 or any others that you may want to have us consider. Like I said in my transmittal before, we are going to have this up here. We don't necessarily have to agree on these. We have until January 1st before they take effect, but I don't want to lose sight of them either, and if they're going to show up on each agenda until we have mutual agreement on the importance of the goals and objectives moving forward.
Right, and what I tried to do here was to capture what's been on the discussion plate for the board over the last year.
So we'll open it up, and Lynn, start with you if there's,
Sure.
here's what Manager Gerard has proposed and your thoughts.
I came up with 2, one of which is on here, so that's good. The Mason's Bluff 492 subdivisions, well, whatever you want to call it. That was one of them. I didn't come up with a lot because I wasn't sure if we were all going to submit them. I figured we could have 20 or 30, and that's sometimes too hard. But the other one I would like you to consider is something with the corridor. And I know we're still kind of strapped with MDOT and the road commission, and it's not just our corridor, but the business association's willing to help do something, whether it's a letter writing campaign or whatever. And maybe we just look at lighting now, and if we know it's going to be 10 years before any kind of a real revamping is done, I guess I'm just thinking of it because that recent accident we had out there, and if they had actually crossed by the light in front of my place, it might not have been so bad. They were in the dark, but I think we need to do something with that, and I don't know exactly what, like I said, because we've got other entities that are controlling what happens, but I think we could mount some kind of, I don't know, program, suggestion. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Okay. Diana?
I think these are good goals. I didn't submit any, but I think that as far as the Mason Bluff, I'm not too sure about, but yeah, they all seem like good goals.
Ernie?
Well, a couple, I'm looking at what he had done on the Mason's Bluff subdivision. Really, is that the direction we want to go at this point in time or not? And I think that's going to take a lot of discussion if we want to move forward on that. So, just by cost factors and that, and when you say completion of the subdivision, just what are we talking about there and that? I don't really know. The other thing on number 4, complete the labor market review on compensation survey. Is this something we need to do, or is the one we have now isn't working or that? So I don't know on that. So I have mixed feelings on what we're doing right now, because we're losing control on financial control on some of this, because we don't have any control on costs, labor costs, when you get into that. So it's a concern that I have when you start budgeting out in that. So, I have a couple of them that I put with my review. One of them is that I keep talking about trying to track the township equipment. to provide a history of it, so we know what's going on with it, so we know what it's costing us to run it. The new software is supposed to have that availability to do it. And if we do have it, then we know where we're at all the time, and when it starts costing us dollars for any of our equipment, then we know we have to get to the point of replacing it right away in that too. So, that would be one, and the other one is, it's there for information only. I'd like to somehow tell the total cost of the buildings, what has been paid to date, and reporting every time a payment is made, so we know where we're at all the time in that. We have 3 buildings that we're funding for, we're paying it off, and yet you really don't have a total clue as to where we're at on them at times in that too. So I've gone through the financial statements and that, and I have a difficult time reading it, and it could be just me. I may have to go to our accountant to have a training session so she can show me how to read it and that too. So those are the 2 I think about at this point in time.
Thanks, Ernie. Clerk Rattari?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the ones listed. There's one that I would like to see, and me and Manager Gerard talked about it, I believe, last week, or maybe it was a week before, is planning for, like, if we have a staff shortage in the office or something, like if our accountant is out for an extended period of time, or our billing clerk is out, what are our plans to keep the operation moving forward? Because we're such a small operation, you can't really hire someone to fill those roles. And we could be severely hindered in some respects if some of those folks are gone for an extended period of time. So I'd like to see kind of a, I don't know, emergency planning, but a kind of a succession planning of what we would do if the accountant was gone for, months at a time, got sick or something happened, or the billing clerk, or planner, or even the township manager. I think as a board, it's our responsibility of the residents to keep the operation going, and we have to try to do that as efficient as we can. And I don't want to be a naysayer, but things happen, and I don't want us to be crippled if something happens. So we should have a succession plan that, if something happens, we can go to this plan, we got things rolling, and, we can keep operating. I mean, we will, but it would be easier to keep operating, so.
Thanks, Randy. Dan?
I was a little confused on the 5th one, pursue establishment of Marquette Township as a training site for Michigan Firefighters Training Council program. I'm not sure where that came from. I know that the fire department has talked about putting a training building or whatever behind. I was just assuming that was just for our fire department, but I guess I'm just a little confused on that one. As for anything new, actually, I don't have anything new, although I would request that we continue with our the question for joint water authority involving Marquette, Nagani, and Ishpeming townships, especially when we get into cost, an update on the costs of the 2007 Phase 2 well field material, and as well as the 2003 lake source plan route and cost estimate for our own water facility for taking our own water out of the lake rather than go with the city. Also, I would guess, since I didn't, in reading up all of the Manager Gerard's comments as what he's done so far, I don't see in here where we talked to the city and asked if we can get into a joint water authority with them, like we did with the solid waste. So probably just to continue on with that goal that I had.
Pete?
I agree with 5, especially on number 3. Hopefully, we'll find out tomorrow to what extent that will be. on number 3. Now, since we have our new facilities over there, Public Works and that, we talked a while back on maintenance, come up with maintenance programs for that and get our trucks in a little bit better shape. And then some training for our lead people in the Public Works Department, send them to different meetings and that and trainings like we do with the rest of them, so. But other than that, I think number 3 will, after tomorrow, I think is going to consume quite a bit of time, the coordination and stuff like that, more so than these 2 buildings that we just had the last couple of years, so.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I guess what I would say is, agree with number 1, the cost of service analysis I think is important, and I would like to see that move forward. Randy, I think it's a good goal and objective. The Masons Bluff subdivision I think is critical. You know, we've got a lot of lots sitting out there. We have we made some obligations to the original folks who put that together and made some promises that we've stopped. And of course, everyone's aware of the background of Mason's Bluff and why that was stopped. But the board never took an action to stop moving forward with Mason's Bluff. We do have the principals that are now holding the paper for Mason's Bluff who are contacting us on a daily basis, chomping at the bit. We have realtors calling us with folks who have bought lots and want to move forward. We have realtors calling us for folks who want to buy lots and move forward. Everyone knows we did talk about it with Kirk. Each budget session, we have them putting aside money every year for the completion of Mason's Bluff. I think that it's one of those items that it's the next phase in our water project. I think it's one of those things that we can do to put, I don't think there'll be 40 home sites out there personally. I think maybe it'll be 30. I have met with municipal council to discuss prior agreements that we had made and were board approved that hadn't been followed up on. He is updating those for our ability to move forward as they come before us. But I think that Mason's Bluff, we need to move off dead center and start moving next year. Would say that I'm glad that the developers and the folks who own the paper on it now and the obligations have been patient as they put their plan together, but it is time for us to move forward, and I think that's a commendable goal for Manager Gerard. The road rehab plan, I think, is something that's going to have to be managed as we move forward, but that is going to be contingent upon tomorrow, I guess. So the next time we meet, we'll probably know whether that is a real goal or not, or if either way we have to have a road rehabilitation plan. It's either going to be a very comprehensive one or it's going to be what we've been doing in the past. And I think that we need to be responsive, because no matter how the vote comes out tomorrow, the folks are going to let us know. It doesn't mean that they don't want us to fix roads. They just don't want to fix them all at once. And I think because of the importance and the amount of response that we've received back from folks, I think roads will continue to be an important item until we do get them fixed. So I agree with that one. And then I'm still going to go back to personnel, Randy, because I still think that we can have you do a better job with personnel. And I think it's one of the areas that, you know, while you have a lot in your background, I don't think that it's one of your strongest areas. So I think it's a worthwhile goal and objective for you to continue to work on it. I think that, you know, irrespective of the fire department officer training program, you know, that we had discussed, but that's why I asked about the annual evaluations of all employees. I think that we may have missed some. I think that it's a key and critical part of your job as township manager to handle those personnel functions moving forward. And I think that whether the board chooses that as one of your goals and objectives, I think that from my perspective as the township supervisor, whether it appears on your 2015 goals and objectives, it'll be an area that I continue to push you to work on. That having been said, I've been making notes all the way through this. What I would like to do, I guess, or propose, and at the board's pleasure, is I'll recap everything that came out of the discussion this evening, put it on one sheet, and it will be back on our agenda for the next meeting, if that's a general consensus. If that's okay, then we will move forward to agenda item number 9J, the manager's report. Manager Gerard.
Straightforward, there's not a whole lot that is done with reports or the report on what we've been working on. It's surprising when you mentioned the local work we had planned on the agenda and the ballot for tomorrow, regardless of whether that's positive or negative, we still have road rehabilitation that has to be done in 2015 and 16. So it's going to be continuing the issue of we've done everything we could reasonably do to educate the public, communicate with the public, to address the issues that are on the ballot. I have received at least 2 contacts regarding the radio ads that we really had nothing to do with. Those were from a private outside group of citizens that did those radio ads. We had one know how much we spent on it. The answer is simple on that, 0. Township did not participate in those. It was not us, it's a private group. We're supportive group. You must not listen to the radio, because I heard it all the time on almost every station I listen to. That's quite a deal. We do continue having issues with hunting season. Trustee LaRue advised me before the meeting that the PBLP is addressing their issue that they have with the duck hunting, which is almost over now. At any event, we are getting into deer season. We're in bow season right now. Rifle season starts on the 15th. Continues muzzle loading season through December, so it's going to continue to be the potential for conflict on the trails and be aware of that. The only other comment that I want to make is, excuse me, with the budget amendment that the board approved tonight, just to clarify why we were making that transfer to not do the narrow track increment, because the decision was made to switch from what we had budgeted for the ice rink. We had originally budgeted blacktop surface as well as Hollywood, which have been modified for this change to be concrete as a base with a much sturdier year-round work. So that's the rationale we adopted, not to go forward with the track increment, using the Chevy 3500 plow, the plow was required last year, we can have to maintain the lot there. As opposed to the other track increment, we're shifting that to the ones with us. Explain why that budget.
Questions for Manager Gerard on these or any other item? Seeing none, we'll close the manager's report. Move to public comment. Those members of the public wishing to address this board may do so at this time.
I just can't help myself.
One in every crowd, Dave.
Just, yeah. Just a comment about Trustee Durant's concerns about the 41 corridor. And just to remind the board that the draft document of that MDOT 5-year study is out. And it should be finalized by the end of December. I think it's a golden opportunity for the Road Committee, Planning Commission, DDA, and the Business Authority to take a look at that and see what we can push forward a little faster. 5-year program is the portion of it I saw pushes out the median all the way past Brickyard, which and there's a lot of changes made on the existing median that's out there. So I think it's an opportunity for everybody to get their hands dirty and see what we can do about cleaning that up. Thanks.
Just to dovetail on Dave's comments, the US 41 Corridor Committee is also, which represents all of the communities basically along the US 41 Corridor from Chocolate Township all the way to Republic, is also addressing it as a joint communication and request to MDOT and to the feds basically to try and do something with lighting through the corridor. So it's going to be a joint effort.
Thanks. Anyone else wish to address the board? Seeing none, close public comment, move to additional comments from board members. Lynn?
I talked to Manager Gerard today because I wanted more information. I was emailing back and forth with the library chairman, and she wanted more information. So I said I'd like to have a cup of coffee with her or something and talk about it. So he was good enough to pull a bunch of files together, and I sent that off to her today, so I hope to have a conversation with her about the tax tribunal. Sorry, I guess I didn't clarify that.
Super. Diana? Clerk, sorry.
Just that I hope our budget discussion does not go very late this evening because someone has to get up at 5:30 in the morning for tomorrow. So that's my wishes for this evening.
Yeah,
Dan?
I'll call you.
Pete? I don't have any further comments for this evening. Is the board's pleasure to move right into the forum discussion, or would you care for a brief recess beforehand to change over from the meeting to your budget discussion?
5 minutes. Did
5
you want a
minutes.
motion? Okay, 5-minute recess.
We have a motion and a second for a 5-minute recess. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? We are in recess. Back in session at 8:42. We're going to continue through the 2015 budget forum discussion. We did have some questions after our last session a week ago, and I sent out those questions to both Chief Sims and to Superintendent Page for clarification on some of the board questions. I did receive and sent out to everybody the responses that we were received. I think probably the best way to do this is we'll go through, if the board's agreeable, do the fire department first and then move to the public works in the potentially 47 minutes we have to get through this. Sorry, Kirk. I saw the pained look on your face, and I apologize, but I'm thinking there will be less questions on the fire department side than there will be on your side based upon the last meeting, so I just thought it might be easier. I did send out a list of questions to Chief Sims from all the board questions that I received. First one was in the fee schedule against the new construction, remodel, and fire protection inspection fees. The board wanted to know, have they always been collected, or if it was new? And Bob's response was that the fees were collected, but were not on the fee schedule. Where do the fees get recorded, to what account? And charge for services 206-626-000 is where they get recorded. Do our inspections duplicate any that are required by the county? Bob's response was some of the inspections are the same as the county, but for a different reason. As for fire protection, we're looking for how the system works and location of the system. Part of the inspection is the pre-fire plan for the building for life safety. The question, when your department runs, like for example, concessions at Lions Field, what account does that money go into? Those monies are not into a fire department account. They're in a membership fund that's used to fund memorials, candy for the parade, donations to the Red Cross, Salvation Army, shop with a firefighter, in schools. The only follow-up question I would have to that is, based on the MTAs, that's not a Marquette Township Fire Department fund. That is a, you guys control that completely separately. It's not affiliated with any monies or with your bank accounts or anything like that, correct?
Correct. It's the membership fund, and we had talked with Lynn about it at the MTA meeting. All this money is from concessions or the members themselves donate into that fund, and we use that fund for the items that were listed.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
The next question was, you stated that you didn't feel the fire department should contribute anything to the, sorry, I said general, it was water fund, thanks for the correction. In light of the 2001 rate study that shows the cost to our water customers of public fire protection at over $76,000 14 years ago, how do you justify your statement? Your answer was the water mains diameters are set by the state of Michigan building code, not the fire department. When the water system was installed, it was paid for by the customers. Each time the system is updated, the customers pay for it. The water fee includes money for repair and maintenance. Like I said, the fee rate study said that we could pay. It does not say that we have to pay. If the water department wants to charge a public fire protection charge, then it should put it on the water bill or put it to a vote of the people if they think the fire department should pay it from the fire fund. A follow-up on that would be the water department can't decide to charge a public fire protection charge. Obviously, they're just a department of this township. That would be a board action, not the water department's action. And it still goes back to the cost of service study that we're going to hit on the next question, trying to figure out what exactly is the true cost of fire protection, and are we capturing it all with the 2.5 mils? Like I said, I have concerns, and said Kirk's been bringing it up to us for as long as we've been doing budgets. This is our 6th budget session together, and none of us ever actually had a real dollar amount. Now that we're actually seeing a dollar amount, although, like I said, the last one we had was $76,000 in 2001. I'd be curious to see what it is, and that's where the cost of service study goes. I think that, again, putting on a public fire protection charge for the board to make that kind of a decision, we'd be asking, that's my biggest problem, is asking only water customers to pay more for fire service than we ask anybody else. And that's kind of what we're doing now if we continue to subsidize it, and that's where my concerns lie. I don't expect you to have the answer totally, but I get your feeling behind it, right?
Well, and if you put it on, you have 1,100 and some water customers, and 425 garbage customers per se. Well, if you put on their bill for everybody, then everybody's paying for it, outright. I did, at the last county meeting, there's 2 entities in the county that were there who pays. Foresight pays $15,000, and the Gunny Township pays $30,000. Them are the only 2 in the whole county that pays for.
It puts something towards their water department.
Right. And I know Kurt wants more money. I want to keep the money I got. Bottom line, it's going to be up to you people to figure out who's going to be happy.
Pistols at 40 feet.
Splitting the baby, Bob.
What?
The next question we had, are you willing to appropriate $9,000 to assist the board in conducting a cost of service study so the question can be answered once and for all? The total cost has been estimated at $27,000, split 3 ways between fire department, DPW, and general fund. Your response was under Public Act 33 does not allow money to be used for water department studies. That's why I sent you the clarification out on that. We're not asking to do a water department study. It's a cost of service study. It's completely different. It's to determine the actual cost of service, whether it's fire department, it's sewer, it's water, it's whatever. And then you also said perhaps you should do a manpower study at the same time for the water department. I'm not sure what that was meant to portray. I don't know how that answers our question in any way, shape, or form.
That was added. I did receive some comments from some water personnel, and the comments I received, I didn't really appreciate. So, I've been around 39 years. I've seen the water department grow. I've seen the people grow, and that's where I'm going to leave it.
I found it slightly disrespectful, I will say that, to a board question. We're going to continue to explore the cost of service study. I don't have an answer. I can't tell you that we're going to take it out of your budget. I did have the question sent to legal counsel for the MTA. So when we talk about what expenditures out of that Act 33 money, because we do ours through a special millage, it's that special assessment millage, certain things get tied to a special assessment. So I have some concerns. I want to make sure, and I think we're fine because I know other places do it, but there has been some talk recently in the legislature about even when people file their taxes and take their homeowner's tax credit right from their taxes, because we include a special assessment in there, so when you get yours and you take it off your taxes, if you're including that special assessment, there is some question about the legality of being able to take that off of your taxes at income tax time, because it's a special assessment and you're not supposed to be able to use it as a homeowner's tax credit. They're trying to fix that in the legislature. I've been doing some research on that over the last few months. I think that it still maintains that it's a gray area, but I also want to make sure that nobody can come back on us on any expenditures that we have and say that they're illegal. If we were to spend, $9,000 out of your fire department millage money towards this cost of service study, and then find out that it's illegal for us to spend that money as a board, I'm sure we could pay it back and we'll get out of it with our, hand slapped. But before we do that, I want to make sure that it's legal. I've asked them to provide a direct response back to that question, and I'll provide that out as soon as we get it, but I don't have that answer yet.
It's just like, we have spent money from the fire fund for other projects, and Moran Street for one, and the DDA is another one. And it seems like it's been used for a slush fund. And like Ernie said before, we really don't know about the DDA. And you mentioned and look at what we gained from it. All right. Well, we gained a whole lot more runs and SEV, but you also got to look at what the water department and sewer department gained from it. They have many thousand more feet of pipe, many more customers, more sales. So in the long run, in my opinion, the water and sewer department gained more from the DDA money than we did. That's my opinion.
I just want to make sure that it had to been looked at. I know that our ballot language was looked at when you initially did it. I know the renewal was looked at. That information has been provided down to Rob Thal. He's going to review it again. Because the question even came up about maintaining a fund balance. One of the concerns that I have is that if you're maintaining a fund balance, when you're using a special assessment on taxes, you're supposed to be saying this is the exact cost of what we're going to do, like the Grandview Water Circle, for example. Here's how much we're going to charge the special assessment, and then you do it on, a frontage, foot per foot frontage or whatever. But you know what the costs are, and then you submit it and you capture those costs, right? When you're maintaining a fund balance, and I'm not saying we're not using it appropriately, you're putting money aside for vehicle replacement or equipment replacement and maintaining that fund balance. But there's a question whether or not that's totally legal with a special assessment, because the special assessment is supposed to be the exact cost. And then if you need the equipment, we bond for it, or we borrow money, or we do whatever, and then it gets captured in the special assessment. So I'm just trying to make sure that we're getting it right. I don't want somebody to come back and find out that we're carrying a fund balance and we're not supposed to be because of special assessment. If we find out that there's things tied to the special assessment, we may want to, as a board, reconsider how we're funding the fire department, whether we do it as a straight millage versus a special assessment, because once we've called it a special assessment, other things get triggered in there that concern me. And, I don't want to get too wrapped up, into the weeds here, but I do have them looking at it. Rob Thal from the MTA and Bauckham Sparks law firm is looking at it, and he'll provide us with the information, so I should have it back before we're finished with the budget sessions for this year. Other questions for Bob? Those were the questions that we had from the last time. I think I captured everything. I don't know if anybody has anything that's come up since that time, if those questions were acceptable to those of you who asked them. This is the time, because as I promised Bob, we'd go to Kirk next, and if he wants to get out of here after this, he would be able to. Dan?
Concerning the fee schedule for the construction, remodel, and fire protection inspection fees, again, I don't, has all of this been done before? All these reviews and everything else has been done all along, but we just never charged a fee, and all of a sudden we want to charge a fee? Is that what's going on?
Well, what my understanding was the fees were there, but weren't on the books. I don't know how that works.
Well, there was some fees prior to this, but it had nothing, nowhere near what these fees are.
And I didn't see these fees until last meeting. I know we put in, or I put in, anytime we do a plan review now, there's a invoice that's sent out. That invoice will be logged in. When we get the payment, that will be logged in, and it will be charged to the account for services. Over the last few years, I don't know where the money went. You know, we're not talking a whole bunch of money, but if you look at the printout from Lois, you know, the way it looks like in the last 3 years, we did 3 plan reviews. I got money for it. So where the money went, I can't tell you. I know I don't have it.
Dan, in response to your question, I know I was asking the office too about the fees, because where were they recorded before? And since you guys didn't know, Bob didn't know, it didn't make sense to me that you guys as fire department leaders wouldn't know where the fees existed. And the answer I got back was that we had been charging them in the past, but they weren't recorded, or most of them weren't recorded anywhere, although we used another municipality. And Randy, I don't know if you know the answer to it. Was it Grand Traverse, or there was another municipality that we used their fee structure for?
No, not Acme. It's
Somebody that was very similar in SEV and.
the Acme area.
Okay, so they had based our fee structure on that. They had been charging them in the past, but because I think there was a concern about the consistency, because they weren't recorded, so they would have to go back and look up to see what they charged the last person that they charged it to, and that was where the impetus came for getting it into the fee structure, so we had them all in one place, that they have been getting charged. But if somebody asked you what they were,
Well, and again, I guess that's where my confusion factor comes into play, because I don't understand. There's some pretty hefty fees here, and I'm just wondering if we didn't charge them in the past, which I'm assuming we didn't charge these hefty fees in the past, because if we did, there should have been a pretty good sized line item in the fire department income under the fee schedule. And so when I see there's nothing under current and I see proposed, that tells me that this has never been done before, and now they're proposing it. This is what the fees are supposed to be. You know, we did line out some of the fees from the last budget were lined out, and these were in place of it now. So I'm assuming these are all new fee schedules for whatever, and is this more work than what was originally done before by the staff of the fire department, or is this the same amount of work that was done by the staff of the fire department, or it's just that now we're charging more money? And I guess that's my question. I'm still totally confused on it.
I was told that it's under the proposed column, but they're the exact same ones that we were doing before. And Lois said that all this money has been captured, and it was back into the fire department revenue.
Generally fell under the other revenues.
But, I mean, Dan, as far as like some kind of a breakout to show, I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean, what I asked.
You know, I mean, I guess it's just a confusion thing. When I see nothing in the current and I see a proposed, that tells me that it's a new fee. And if I looked at the original one from last year, they lined out the fees that were set up for the fire department at that time, and they weren't anywhere near what they're showing here. So that was where my confusion still comes into play.
I was also, the ones that were lined out were the ones that we had listed somewhere, but weren't actually collected or were outdated or
They were changed by the zoning ordinances.
changed by the zoning ordinance, okay. So I know that's not a great answer to your question. But that's the answer I got when I asked your question.
Yeah, I didn't really have an answer because that's a function that Lois allocates those. When we do a site plan, it's all of us together do the site plan for a fixed cheap fee, and then she splits them out. But that was, when I asked her the question, she said, yeah, they're under other revenues, so.
Ernie?
Who bills this?
Lois.
The fire marshal normally sends a bill
Mhm.
with his comments or review of the plans.
Right.
That's why we're setting up a spreadsheet. So every time there's an invoice sent out, we know it, the amount. When it comes back in, normally they'll put it in my mailbox. I make a copy of it, and then I sign it, I give it to Lois. But on some of these, they went straight to Lois, I don't know where they went to from there.
And basically, when we do a site plan review, it's typically the planner zoning administrator that ultimately issues the cost to the developer, basically. That comes back in, Lois breaks it up. And the fee is basically just a full recovery fee. It's just the amount of time that each individual, it's calculated that each individual spends on it. That portion of it goes back to their individual budgets as revenue.
Would this be something that also would be included in the cost of service study?
Yes. This would be a cost allocation study,
Okay.
is where this would be captured. There would be two, basically. There would be a cost of service, and then there would be an indirect cost study that they had proposed. And basically what the indirect study does is it captures those things like general services administration for postage and all that kind of stuff. They track that and identify how much of it's allocated to which departments.
Okay.
Indirect costs.
Other questions for the fire department? Lynn?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to stay on this, I guess, I'm wondering what we're going to do going forward, because if we approve these, then we're committed to them. If we ignore them, the office still doesn't have good authority or a basis to charge this stuff.
Why not?
I mean, if we ignore them, if we take them out of here,
But why would we?
they would be doing the same thing that they've been doing then.
Right, I mean, that's all there are is, they keep saying that these are the fees they have been charging. It's just that they've never been actually captured anywhere.
And written down.
Right.
So what you're agreeing to or proposing is that we
Adopt them
leave these the
formally,
way
that
they
we
are.
have them in a fee schedule so that if someone asks, we should have it somewhere where instead of saying, I don't know, what did we charge the last guy who was similar to this?
Yeah, no, I agree.
That makes
Okay.
me nervous and also doesn't give a very professional appearance of we know what we're doing here.
And these are supposed to be cost retrieval, right? I mean,
Right.
they're based on that, they're not just a nebulous number that the fire marshal came up with, right? Would you,
They came from Acme Township.
Okay.
Guys, what they charge. Including, my understanding, they're, like we are, employed. They bought stores outside of the city, and that's what they
Same place that all of our zoning, our current zoning and planning, fees are based on, is the exact same place. Because we're very similar, that's where our fee structure was developed based upon what they had already developed.
okay. So we would feel okay about continuing to use these then?
Right.
That's all I was kind of afraid of. Okay.
Any other questions for the fire department?
not really directly for the fire department, I mentioned a couple times, this public fire protection charge. I think we have to define really what is that and that. We talk about it a lot, but just exactly what is it we're talking about then?
Oh, that's right, I never did give you guys copies of this yet, did I? I'll do that before I leave here tonight.
So, because that'll have a bearing as the direction we go, and that, to me, and that, whether we continue as we have in the past, or we alter it some other way, and that.
Operating capital costs associated with the provision of fire flow capacity. So it's an identifiable cost associated with the existence of this fire flow capacity. So it's a major factor in the cost of constructing and operating a water system is demand for water on peak day, peak hour, and the ability to provide the quantity of water and rate and flow necessary for fire service requirements. When a water system is constructed, mains, elevated storage tanks, and pumps are sized to permit flows capable of handling the water needs of the general water service customer, as well as to provide adequate fire flows. In all but the larger cities, the requirement for fire flow capability results in the construction of a larger system than that required to meet daily domestic and process uses. Therefore, there is therefore an identifiable cost associated with the existence of that fire flow capability. So that's what the public fire protection is the cost associated with sizing the system to meet fire flow demands.
But also, the fire flow demand is regulated by state of Michigan building code for what side of the building you want. So, if you want to keep on putting big box stores in or other development, you're gonna have to increase the, the mains and the pumping capacity to do that. Well, that's not set by us, it's set by the state, so.
But we still need to, and that's why I said we still need to capture it. Maybe 2.5 mils isn't enough for what we need for your department. I don't know that, but we may have to ask for more. We may need more than 2.5 mils to fund the fire department operations.
But based on what you just read, it sounds like Bob's stipulation of what's happening with the original fees on businesses, or what I pay for my bigger line, is what Kirk's capturing already from the water users.
No, that money goes to the fire department.
No,
That's not what I'm getting.
no, the money that I pay every month because I have a bigger line, or Frank does, or the mall, or whoever has, the 8-inch or 6-inch,
Oh, right.
all that stuff, in the beginning, they pay those extra hookup fees for that, and then every month, we pay more than the average resident. So Bob's contention all along was that that's the money that would be the portion for the, what's the term you just used?
Fire protection?
For the
Well,
public
yeah,
fire
but the-
protection.
the-
However, those are taken into consideration in this rate study, which looks at every single rate recapture and fee that has to do with public works, water provision. And then they take and say, what is the cost to public works strictly based on sizing the system to meet public fire protection? That's the $76,000 identified in 2001, irrespective of what we charge for.
How do you know that?
It says it in the study.
It says it in there that that's two separate numbers?
Everything has been factored out. All these costs are strictly about, it doesn't have to do with the meters to your property or anything else. This is only about the system. It's mains, storage tanks, pumps. Nothing about meters to your individual business.
Well, then why are we charging more for water for that? If I were to put a new business in, I would have to pay all those premium fees to cover the water and the fire protection. And
Because
then
you pay equivalent meters.
Yeah, the only fire protection charge that individual businesses pay is for the fire line.
No, I'm not saying it's defined as a specific fee, but I'm saying that's why you're charging. If you've got to build the system to accommodate both, the fees that you're collecting each month or on startup include that.
They're two different paying for your personal fire protection, it's called private fire protection. So that's in the fee schedule as well. It's based on the size of the, you're not paying for the whole system.
No, I'm not saying that. We're all contributing to it.
Correct.
What,
And
what,
you're also paying, water customers are paying whatever the difference is between the 20,000 and the actual cost of providing fire protection. And it's still only a percentage of the whole system cost. And it's the building code doesn't have anything to do with the code. It's a township decision. First of all, the DEP regulates water systems. They don't regulate the size of the water system, but it's up to the local communities whether or not they want fire protection from the water system. Most communities, if they have a water supply, they say yes. And I wasn't here when that decision was made, but it's kind of thing you can't say yes today, and then build it, and then 10 years later say, oh, we changed our mind. Because you've got an infrastructure, which is bigger pipes, storage tanks.
But that is also paid for by the customers when it's put in.
right.
And all the study does is identify what the cost of that is.
Well, we've agreed that we want the study, I think. I think that's the consensus. So this is kind of a moot point. The point that we have to decide is whether we're going to charge the 20,000 this year or not. And if we don't, we may have to.
Change my numbers, it's still a cost, so take out $20,000, that means the rate.
So, right.
That's what I'm saying. We just, the whole conversation is pointless right now.
It depends. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion
Decision has
about
to
the
be-
water rate, specifically the per 1,000 gallon rate. And if the reason I brought it up in the first place is that, again, I had to do it from the 76,000 and just took the inflation factor up through 2014. That would be an additional $83,000 that water customers are subsidizing. So are we, as a board, saying we're okay with that we know that public fire protection is wrapped in there? But all I said is, let's be honest with folks then and tell them that if you're a water customer, you're paying for more of the public fire protection than your neighbor who isn't, until we get the cost of service study done. We've been doing it all along. Dan?
So,
For a better rate, if you fire protection includes water.
Right.
so if we decide that the fire department's gonna pay $100,000 for public water, whatever, then you're telling me then that you'll have to drop the rates for all the other private ones. Because your budget right now is designed for the $20,000 that the fire department's giving. Now, if we turn around tomorrow and say, well, no, you know what, Bob, you're gonna have to come up another $80,000. Now you've got an extra $80,000. So now you're gonna have to drop the rates back down, because you're basically telling me that one or the other is gonna pay for it.
It's a cost, right?
So they've been, the private sector's been paying for it all this time. Now you want to take it from the fire department and then give it, so the private sector's not going to be paying for it all the time, so you're going to have to drop your rates for the private sector. Well, yes, you are, because what you have here for your, like Lynn was just telling you, because of the size of the pipe that she has to pay more for fire protection. So if you're going to take that money from the fire department now, then her rate should be going down because you're getting the money from the fire department rather than her.
That's different between private fire protection costs. She's paying for what her private fire protection costs for just her business. The public fire protection that we're talking about with the $103,000 is completely different. That's about the size of the system, not what her individual personal fire protection is.
Well, somewhere along the line, Kurt's going to be getting $80,000 more. Somebody's going to have to pay less then, obviously.
Yeah, rates would obviously totally adjust his water budget.
So what you're saying basically is the water rates, if the fire department has to, we decide the fire department's going to come up with this, your water rates are going to have to go down drastically then.
Well, as much as $80,000 would affect his budget.
Because he'd actually get 100,000.
Randy had a question?
Well, not really, just a comment. I was just wondering if maybe when Lynn was talking about it, if maybe the monthly debt retirement fee was confused into that, because there's, that's a fee also. In a bigger line size has higher fees with that also, but didn't sound like it after I.
No, it wasn't even me specifically. I'm just thinking of when new business comes in, we charge them all the hookups and all for the mains and or whatever, the meters and everything.
No, we charge a connection fee based on the use and size.
But part of that,
Every business has a fire.
not every
Connection
new,
fees are not related to fire. No fire. Connection fees are strictly based on the use of the building and the size.
and have nothing to do with the size of the system.
Randy, go ahead.
Like I said, I think this is a discussion for next year because I don't think Bob can take 80,000 out of his budget. That's not fair to him, and I don't think it's fair to everyone to go back and readjust these right now. However, there's a philosophy question here that we're going to have to move forward on. Either everyone that pays the 2.5 mil shares in that cost or more, depends what, or do the water customers bear some of that cost because they have hydrants in front of their houses, most of them. I mean, out where some other areas where don't have fire protection, there's no hydrants there. I mean, we carry the water there, but I mean, I'd much rather have a hydrant in front of my house than having water carried. So myself, I'd rather have a fire hydrant in front of my house and help pay some of that cost than just rely on pumpers moving, But I mean, that's a philosophy we had. The board I was on in 2004, when this came up, we decided then, it's been 20,000 since until we suspended it for those 5 years or 4 years, that the water customers would bear some of that cost. That was our philosophy then. This is a new board, so maybe they feel we're going to have to go in another direction, but I don't think in 2 months we can make that decision without a cost of service study. And, that's something that we're going to have to do in 2015. And moving forward, we're going to have to make that decision. Either everyone shares in that cost or the water customers pay, a little bit of that. Like I said, there's advantages to both.
I just got one more comment. You're talking about water customers, insurance rates going down, but you have, and I don't know how many homes are out there, but they have the water main in front of their house. They're not hooked up to the water main. They have a fire hydrant in front of their house. So their insurance went down. They haven't paid anything, and they're getting a benefit.
So then there goes our philosophy. Everyone should share in that cost because everyone's getting the benefit. And because, you are absolutely right, Bob. There are some parts of this township where we have water main in front of houses and there's no one hooked up. And they get the same benefits as me, and I'm hooked onto the water system. So, I could... No, but it's a fairness in charging, and to me, it doesn't. I should say the cost is insignificant because the 14 or 11 cents it's gonna their base rates going up isn't gonna cost me that much money. So, but I think it's a fairness question. Should we, moving forward, charge everyone what they should be, be paying? And if we have to go to the residents and say if it's over 2.5 mils and say, hey, we're not generating enough revenue with that, for the cost of the service for everyone. Maybe it's got to be 2.75 mils, who knows? But maybe that would be good for everyone, and we could lower rates in the future if everyone's paying that, so.
Hi, Dan.
The only problem with that being, Public Act 33 limits you to 2.5 mils. So if you want to go higher, you're going to have to eliminate the Public Act 33 and go to straight millage.
Other questions for the fire department? I said, I think this issue, I think it's going to be, it's a philosophical decision by the board. And we talk a lot about being fair and making sure the costs are allocated, and, special assessments should, everybody should have to pay a special assessment if we've expanded a system through your neighborhood, but we haven't always done that. So there are some disparities throughout the community. And I think this board just has to develop its philosophy and move on. And if our cost of service study comes back and we decide that we can't afford it on 2.5 mils, we'll have to make a decision to either, like Dan said, go with a straight millage for fire protection, or we have a lot of other options we would have to consider, or we say, well, water customers are gonna pay a little extra for fire protection, and non-water customers are getting a little bonus. But as long as we have our philosophy and we can back it up and it's fact-based and we all agree and we move forward, then it is what it is. It's been like that for many years. It's just that year after year, Kirk says, I never get the full amount that I should get for public fire protection. And Bob says, I don't think we should pay anything. And the board's like, I don't know how much it is. And then the next year we have the same conversation, and the following year we have the same conversation. I think philosophically, let's just answer it once and for all, right? Pete?
I think for this year, we just leave it like Randy said, leave it like it is. The budgets they're balanced. Both budgets are balanced. Let them go this year, get your study, and then we'll go from there.
Right.
The same arguments, when I was reading the fire department, the reason they want 5 more is the same argument that Kirk has for his. If you look at the questions, what they are, they're the same thing. So if Kirk is balanced, the fire department is balanced, why don't we just approve the darn thing and move on and have our study done for next year? Fire department needs 5, Kirk needs 2, for the same reasons.
Randy?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to throw anyone under the bus here, and I'm not trying to throw the fire department under the bus, but if they need more money, we need to get them more money.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that. If it's a fairness issue, and there's folks skating by, not paying their fair share, that's an issue that we should be addressing. And like I said, and even in where Supervisor Limata lives, there's a water system there. Not everyone's hooked up. They're getting the same benefit as the water customers, and they're not paying that extra money. Some of them, not all of them, but some. And it's a fairness issue. So.
Dan?
Well, and it is true, but then again, by having the 2.5 mils for fire protection under Public Act 33, everybody pays. So there is no disparaging there. So as long as the budget can be balanced with the 2.5 mils, then really everybody is paying into it. If we decide the fire department has to pay more money to Kurt, then the fire department's going to have to do something to their budget to realign that. If you're saying that it's a possibility that the fire department can't keep a fund balance to offset a $700,000 vehicle, then the fire department won't be able to do it. But also realize, if that $700,000 vehicle is needed, the fire department doesn't have the money to pay for it. You're going to go on a millage for that again, and people are going to say, well, you're going to bond it, so we're going to be, it's a vicious circle no matter which way you do it. Right now, with the Public Act 33 2.5 mils, everybody is paying their fair share to the fire prevention or fire department as well as for the fire protection. So, to say, well, we'll get rid of the Public Act 33 and go to a millage, to increase it, so now people are, so it just doesn't make sense to me at this point in time. Like I said, if the fire department's budget can be balanced with the 2.5 mils they get, then fine.
Other questions for the fire department? I think that's it, Bob. We have like 3 minutes to go,
So I think it's time to schedule more
and
sessions.
that's about what we have time to do, come out of the forum discussion and look at everybody's calendar. I would just note that we did get the response back from Superintendent Page, and he did ask the questions that I logged from everybody at the last meeting. You do have that in your email. He included the fire line size charge, equivalent meter for sewer customers, equivalent meter size water customers, and the number of each. And then the letter from Lenny Bodinas, who responded back to specifically about our question about the new service worker, which I thought was very well done, and I forgot to thank him when I saw him. So if you would, Kirk, pass that along to Lenny, that thought it was well reasoned and in a nice response. I guess where we're going to pick up then is with Public Works and the fee schedule on where we're at, and we'll follow up the questions that were asked and answered previously at our next budget session, which will be, I guess we should close the forum discussion, move on to the agenda, and then do you need to add or just make the motion to approve them once we come up with a consensus on the next one?
We're out of the forum discussion at 9:27, so we're now free to make a motion to, get, schedule our next budget work session. So we are free to do that now.
I'm guessing tomorrow's out.
I wouldn't think some of us wouldn't be there.
Well, we can have it right here, so you can just kind of,
I don't
Double
think that would
team.
be smart.
Anything later this week? Thursday? Can everybody be there?
What time?
Don't matter to me. I've suddenly find myself with a lot of time on my hands.
oh, you got the call, hey?
So I've got as much time as I can meet any time during the day.
Would have to be later in the day for me, but,
What time, Randy?
well, afternoon.
When are we available? Diana, when are you available?
Thursday's not good for me.
You work all day and all night?
No, but I have to have an appointment at 5:45.
How about next Tuesday? Is that good? Next Tuesday, a week from tonight?
What time?
5 o'clock or
I have a meeting at 5. 5 won't take me more than a half an hour for that one.
6 o'clock?
6 to
What day would that
7:30
be,
or
the 17th of November?
11th.
the 11th?
6 to 7:30, maybe 6 to 8.
Yeah, it's Veterans Day.
It's in Canada, though.
Not a holiday.
Well, it's not a holiday. Well, it is a federal holiday.
Federal holiday, but not.
We're open.
But Dan, for you and I, it's free lunch at Applebee's.
Good, you can take all of us then. We have the meeting there.
Yeah, all of it, yeah. Well, there's 4 of us here, right?
6 to 8.
So are we good on the 11th from 6 to 8?
Okay. Fees and water.
And how about Thursday of that week, or we can schedule sessions if they're not needed, we can cancel them. For the Open Meetings Act, I have to.
Thursday the 13th from 6 to 8?
Okay.
13th. And then after that, good luck trying to catch me for the next 2 weeks.
We gotta have one for Saturday morning.
Try to find me.
We'll do it in your,
6 to 8.
AM. Yep, so we're 11th, 6 to 8, Thursday, the 13th, 6 to 8, and then we have a meeting on the 18th.
Put it in the second forum discussion.
Second forum discussion of the 18th.
Fee schedule with Public Works, at least for the first one.
Yep, and then we'll see. We've gone through everything. It's a matter of where we're going on the fee schedule, whether people had questions on the fees and
6 to 8, Dan.
the questions. We may not need all of these, gotta hope we don't, but we'd be better off to have them in the books than not. The 11th from 6 to 8 PM would be the first one, Kirk, and that will be on your proposed rates and fees.
Okay.
Well,
Just you.
just you.
Don't look at me. I could have passed it the first time we sat down. Not entirely, but I guess we're gonna look at yours first and then we'll move.
So I'll move, we accept Tuesday, the 11th, 6 to 8, Thursday, the 13th, 6 to 8, and I don't have to really post the second forum discussion, but I'll include that in the posting. And that's in form of a motion.
I'll support it.
We have a motion and a second to accept the meeting dates as proposed. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. And I'd love a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passed. Thank you.